Hello, everyone. Blue Star Saber once again to do another Star Wars Bad Batch review. A bit late, and I tried to do it as well a bit earlier, but I think my mic's audio came out, and so I muted, so I don't know how far long it was doing that. Muted, so I can't recall. So there's probably long bits of silence. So I figured, okay, I'm clearly going to need to try and redo the review again. So here I am. Unfortunately, it means it's also the same day when the next episode comes out, though not at the exact time yet, but here I am. Anyway, before I begin the episode review, I just want to leave a few things that I want to correct myself on. I think I made a mistake with the dead Jedi from Kamino. It was not Shakti. I think it was some theorizing it's the medic Jedi from the Yoda Force Ghost arc, and let's see, I think I've forgotten to comment how Bad Batch is no longer doing the Clone Wars, like burning throughout the Clone Wars logo. That was only the first episode, and it's just the Bad Batch logo showing up with its epic music, and then the title of the episode, which is this one was replacements, and it no longer does that Clone Wars narration, which is a shame because I like it, but anyway, it's the bad first episode of Bad Batch was the last we're ever going to hear of it. So anyway, to begin this episode, we get two sort of plot lines. The one with the main Bad Batch squad, and the other is with what Crosshair is doing while under command of the Empire. The episode of course begins with with Clone Force 99 escaping from their ship, with Wrecker and Omega eating from the food, being given food from the supplies and all that stuff. Unfortunately, a bit short, so Wrecker can't have his usual amount. Omega tries to volunteer, but Hunter points out that she hasn't ate anything, and the fact that she doesn't even have her own room, which leads to Wrecker to plan something about a bit later. But we'll get to that a bit later. But end up crashing on the moon. Due to their damaged ship from their escape from the last episode and that stuff. With Omega, with the tech saying that they need to unplug this power battery thing. I can't recall what it was called. Which they only have one left. Into the outside the ship. Omega's asked if it's in this little metal box thing, which it's the clones reveal that it's Crosshair's Crosshair's ammo kit and all that stuff, which leads to Wrecker saying how he misses Crosshair despite what happened, with Echo pointing out he shot him, with Tech pointing out it was probably the programming in the clone chip in their head that probably let Crosshair that led to Crosshair's actions, with Omega saying that that's the case. So there might be it's the Bad Batch learning that it might not be necessarily Crosshair's fault that they betrayed them, and it might be a way to save him, but they gotta repair the ship. And this is when we cut to Crosshair after being examined by the Kaminoans. It goes back and forth between the two plot lines, but I'm gonna stick with the Crosshair one for the most part, and then go back to Bad Batches because that one's a bit more interesting for me to talk about. But yeah, with talking and it's in the Prime Minister discussing about what they plan to do with Crosshair and all that stuff, and how they're planning on having the clones teach enlisted troopers and all that stuff, and we end up getting introduced to and then we see that the Vice Admiral, the Imperial officer from the last episode in the hologram, Vice Admiral Rampart, is in charge of the enlistments of who was behind the chain code information, is also behind the enlistment of regular soldiers joining the Imperial Army as part of the Project War Mantle, who believes that the loyalty of the recruits was more valuable to the Empire than the clone troopers that are being used by the Republic so far, despite their program loyalty and this stuff. The Prime Minister, of course, is against this kind of thing, as the clones are pretty effective, if perhaps more so since they're trained at creation and their program loyalty and all that stuff. But the Rampant and Tarkin believes that with or at least particularly Rampant believes with those that are willingly to join, for their loyalty for the Empire and stuff, not to mention they can be trained even by the clones themselves and all that stuff. So it's like, at the moment, it's going to be like a joint of, enlisted troops and clones serving the Empire in the early days from the sounds of it. But yeah, Crosshair Scrod, we end up meeting, 4 individuals. Each, they don't really have a names, but they each have an ES and then O with a number, with ESO1 being the sort of like blonde shortcut, the one with the most character and personality introduced in this. Sort of like a short blonde cut dude that's enlisted because he gets paid for doing his job for the Empire, something the Republic's never really done for him. And the other, 3 is this blue-haired woman. I think a sort of blonde, darker-skinned dude, and a dark-skinned woman with a sort of like a fuzzy, shortcut thing. I mean, they don't really have proper names, so I can't really describe. So I have to best describe them by their appearances and their code numbers, really. But but yeah, it's quite interesting as due to the fact that due to this enlisting, they think that Rampart thinks they are their loyalty will be excellent for the Empire and all that stuff. However, Tarkin wants to test them, particularly with the mission that the Bad Batch failed to do, which was kill Saw Gerrera and his rebel forces on Onderon. So they leave there with ES01, the blonde dude, questioning why Crosshair's in charge and thinks that due to the fact that, being replaced. On a second. Sorry, just thought someone was knocking on my door, but it's probably just the wind. Which would be a bit concerning because it's technically over 10 minutes past midnight here. But anyway, so the clone. The first of the shock troopers of Crosshair Squad's questions why the clone is in charge, thinking that given the fact they're being enlisted, they're probably better than the clones and that stuff, and eventually he will be the one in charge and all that stuff, or the non-clones at least, which doesn't sit well with Crosshair as he doesn't like this guy's attitude. Anyway, we got to Saw Gerrera's group, or what's left of them there. It's just a bunch of still remaining troopers with a few adult civilians. I think one of them is one of those sort of like goat-like aliens, and a Twi'lek and a few adults. None of the children and elderly are there. They're probably all gone, which is probably a good thing given what happens at the end of this thing, as the two sides begin a sort of shoot out and all that stuff, and begin fighting each other. Once Crosshair Squad beats down and prevents them from escaping, killing most of the soldiers before executing the remaining ones who don't give out the location to where Saw Gerrera is, and which leads to only this, and the civilians have no idea. Leave only the civilians left. He tries to ask them, do they know? But they do not know because they're only trying to get transport off the planet from these rebels and all that stuff. So Crosshair orders them to be executed. However, ESO1 is against the killing them, saying that they're just civilians. Why don't we just take them in for questioning and just, there's prisoners and all that stuff. He's saying that they're enlisted to be soldiers, not executioners. However, Crosshair is saying the reason why he was put in charge, ends up it's because he follows orders through and then ends up shooting, ESO1, killing him. We're saying the thing that, the clones have been saying when, programmed to Order 66, good soldiers follow orders in a rather creepy way, I must admit. and then tells the remaining squads to execute the civilians, in which they shoot or burn them down, and it's a sort of dark scene. They would eventually return back to Kamino with Admiral Rampart saying that the mission was a success, even though Talking points out one of them died, but says that was the price to pay for the loyalty for enlisting and that stuff. But I'm not sure if he's been yet informed by the fact that the soldier in question that was killed was executed by Crosshair because he was disobeying, killing civilians, and not necessarily following orders. But I guess we'll talk a bit about that later. Anyway, Tarkin leaves Vice Admiral Rampart in charge of the continuing of this project, though I think he might have called him Admiral or not, so I'm not sure if he's promoted him or not. But either way, he's left in charge behind Kamino as Tarkin is going elsewhere. Meanwhile, the Kaminoan Prime Minister talks with the Kaminoan doctor that if Rampart has his way, the clones would be replaced by these enlisted soldiers, and the Kaminoans will be out of business, nor would they have a secure place within the Empire. So they need to make sure that that the doctor's sort of project follows through. To seem to deal with the fact that Jango Fett's donation of DNA is degenerating at the moment. Starting to fade away, I guess you could say. So this project could be this project that the Kaminoan doctor could work if they had the special elite clones from the chances clones from the Bad Batch, but they're not going to come back anytime soon, given the fact that now Future does the Empire. But he knows that they need to find a way to get them, or at least one of them, because they're Kaminoan property, and they need to secure for their planet's for their planet's future and all that stuff. Which goes to show that he's not exactly an ally to the Bad Batch, but yeah. Anyway, Crosshair squad returns to what now is the Bad Batch's former barracks. I should probably mention that it seems like the droid AZI or AZ by the droid that was working with the Bad Batch. I should probably mention that despite what I thought of the last episode, he was not destroyed. He was just simply deactivated, and he was back and functioning early in this episode. And in fact, he was taking care of Crosshair in the beginning of this episode. So it's nice to see that he's still alive. So it's nice to see we're getting some recurring characters from the Clone Wars still. But and this particular droid, whether or not we'll see him, how much we'll see him, remains to be seen. But yeah. But yeah, Crosshair squad returns with Crosshair having a look at his old squad's mission number count thing for missions accomplished. However, he does not sign it and just ignores it. Probably just thinking about his squad for a bit, and he just ends up in his story ends with him just sitting down in his bed thinking, who knows what, maybe his squad or maybe his choices. But yeah, he's currently programmed to obey the Empire, so I don't see him betraying them anytime soon. Anyway, cutting back to the Bad Batch's squad, because it was supposed to go back and forth, but I decided that they've already done what they needed. Let's see, back and forth. But I figured I'd just do Crosshair storyline because it's just easier. Might have been a bit easier or not, but anyway. So Tech and Echo go outside to repair the ship. However, they just as they're planting the thing in, and just as they're planting the power source thing in, they end up let's see, let's see, noticing that there's, let's see, a creature that scratch marks on the ship's done by a creature, which ends up stealing the, let's see, let's see, I think it's the, let's see, the power battery thing. I'm trying to see if I can find the name for it actually. A rate. No, wait, no, it's a ration bond. No. Let's see. The ship determines when the ship's capacitors. Oh yeah, I think it's what it's called, capacitors. I think. Let's see. So the creature ends up taking it, and Tech reveals that it's an Ordo Moondragon, a species which feeds on pure energy. Let's see. So it's stolen the part to feed. So it's stolen like the part they need to feed on due to the power it holds and all that stuff. So Hunter and Omega go after it due to the fact that at this moment Wrecker is feeling a bit of some sort of headache, which some fans are theorizing that it might be the ship starting to take effect on Wrecker. Though he ends up doing something else that we'll get to a bit later, and so Omega volunteers, which Hunter is a bit reluctant to at first due to the fact that, well, she's a kid and all that stuff, but she's points out they're part of the squad, so she should come along. So Hunter and Omega go out with Omega trying to question if she could use Hunter's own tracking skill things, though Hunter points out that this is his own enchanted clone enchantment thing, not something that comes natural, something that can be taught and all that stuff. Just like Wrecker and Tech. And Omega points out that Crosshair as well, which gets a bit of an uncomfortable silence a little bit from Hunter, but Omega points out to him that it wasn't Crosshair's fault, it was the programming and all that stuff. You shouldn't be mad at him too much. But Hunter is more mad at himself for leaving Crosshair behind when he should have rescued him. No man that's left behind and all that stuff. But Omega says that we can try and save him somehow. But before this conversation can continue, they find the part they need, but they get attacked by the Ordo Moondragon, and Hunter's breath mask gets removed a bit, so he suffocates for a bit until Omega puts it back on. However, he's not in condition to continue forward at the moment, so Omega, taking Hunter's blaster and a torchlight, goes into the dragon's pit to retrieve the device. To retrieve the pot, which she encounters the Moondragon and is able to trick it, but by using the flashlight, using its interest in the flashlight to to throw it to the side, and it goes to go and eat it for energy as she takes the part and crawls out thing, not having to use her blaster at all. Reunites with Hunter, asking her where she's been and all that stuff, which she tells him what she's done and the fact that she didn't have to use the blaster at all. And they congratulate him. Okay, I'm getting a comment from someone from General Grievous called Cough Cough. Let's see. Hope that cough is doing well, Grievous. Oh, I see you've probably now left, but anyway. So let's see. Hunter and Omega return to their ship. Return to the ship. The part in its place. They head off, and Wrecker has a surprise for Omega as he takes her to what he's been doing, and it's revealed that he has made her own room as a gesture of being part of the squad and all that stuff. So I guess you got a nice little uncle moment there with Wrecker and Omega. And even giving her his Lolo stuffed teddy bear kind of like thing. Given the fact that it's probably more a bit fitting for her, and it's like she comments how she's never had her own room now, and with the Hunter and the rest of the squad and the rest of the Bad Batch saying that she's part of the squad now and all that stuff. And the episode ends as they continue on into hyperspace. First off, I do kind of like for my thoughts on this episode, I'll get to that, but one thing I do kind of like is how for the earlier bits of this episode, when they're crossing back and forth between Crosshair storyline and Bad Batch's storyline, let's see, it mostly changes once Crosshair gets mentioned and all that stuff, so I kind of like that. But anyway, for me, I say out of the two storylines, I definitely say the Crosshair one was probably the more engaging, as we learn a bit more of how the Empire is conscripting, let's see, regular people to join the Empire to replace the clones as time goes on and stuff. I particularly like how, let's see, with the one member that we're a bit familiar with, the short blonde dude, or ES01, let's see, he likes, let's see, that he's joined because he said he enlisted because with the Empire, I get paid, I get fed, and I have a roof over my head. That's more than Republic ever did for me. So it seems, depending on your perspective or what you've been, or depending on how you're living and what perspective, the Empire might have benefited certain people and groups. And it seems like for those that enlisted to become soldiers, is that they got money, that got food, home, and a shelter, and all that stuff. Some stuff that the Republic never probably did, due to like its growing corruption in the last few years and all that stuff. Not to mention the war and all that stuff. But of course, we know. Not saying that the Empire is good, as we know it's not, given how fact it destroys planets and it oppresses anyone that doesn't agree or wants to join it and all that stuff. But we can see why with stuff like this, why you have, let's see, certain people becoming very loyal to the Empire, particularly amongst who would become the future Stormtrooper Corps and all that stuff. So it's interesting to see that perspective, but it's interesting how it's the Vice Admiral from the last episode who was behind the code chains and is now part of this project called, of course, Project Warmantle. Is behind the code chains for every citizen of the galaxy, or to keep track of where they are and stuff, so the Empire knows where they are. And the fact that he's also behind on the enlisting of the soldier, or at least in charge of it, at least. So yeah, he seems to be pretty confident that in time, with the loyalty of people enlisting and the training they receive, they will become a much more effective force than the clone troopers ever were. Not to mention a lot more cheaply than the expensive that they need to pay to the Canon with the effort and time they need to create these clones and all that stuff. However, I do kind of like how, let's see, despite this sort of, let's see, supposed loyalty thing, let's see, one thing that I think shows that the difference between like enlisted soldiers and the now programmed obedient clones is that the enlisted soldiers can think for themselves, and particularly the short blonde one, particularly, is against trying to kill civilians if they're unarmed and really not trained to be fighting wars. Not saying there shouldn't be executioners and stuff. Though he ends up being killed and then being set as an example of disobeying orders for the rest of the soldiers to shoot down and, under orders from Crosshair and all that stuff. So despite the fact that, let's see, Rampart thinks that this is a more better system, enlisting troops is a much more better for loyalty and they be better trained. However, what Crosshair's dark moments just shown is that the one thing that the clones pretty programming has is that they will not disobey orders at all. Due to their programming. Well, enlisted soldiers could very much well do so. And if they don't like, and as we've seen from various different Star Wars medias, particularly the one that comes to mind is the EA's Battlefront 2, is that two out of the three members of the Inferno Squad end up defecting the Empire when they end up questioning, the Empire's brutal methods, all that stuff, showing that even though there might be a certain sense of loyalty of enlisting, there are some more issues that some of these people won't really want to cross the line, showing that they could eventually defect and become enemies of the Empire, which of course they probably do, from the original trilogy, from all those expanded universe stories and stuff that we see. So there's that. But it's interesting to see where this mindset went of how to replace the clones and all that stuff. With following through the Bad Batch. Now, one interesting thing about the whole Crosshair is that it's been brought up due to the fact that it's been brought up to the Bad Batch due to his cloning chip. Doing the programming, he may not be fully in control of his actions and why he betrayed them. With some of them even missing or missing him, particularly with Wrecker. Despite what happened, with even the Hunter sort of mad at himself for not rescuing Crosshair when he had the chance, sort of like leaving a man behind and all that stuff. With Omega believing that there might be a way to save him and all that stuff. So yeah. So whether or not this episode does deal with the possibility of the Bad Batch trying to rescue Crosshair and possibly removing his chip. Now, whether or not Crosshair deserves redemption or deserves to be saved, might end up being debated by some people, given the fact he just ordered people to gun down civilians and all that stuff. That might be a point of no return, but who knows? We'll end up seeing. But one thing I do like the fact is that, it seems like the Vice Admiral from the last episode, who was in the hologram, is the one who introduced the chain codes and is behind this Project War Mantle. Seems to be the one in charge, and seems to be the actual Imperial antagonist for the Bad Batch this season. Since Tarkin has his own stuff to do and all that stuff for the Empire, and not to mention the fact he's not going to die until the very first Star Wars movie. So we've got Imperial antagonist for for the Bad Batch, who Dave Filoni and his crew can kill off whenever they want to, because they can't do with Tarkin and all that stuff, given they have to follow the continuity of the movies. So yeah, so we end up seeing him as our bad guy. And I do like him, and I also find the fact that the Bad Batch might just be the Empire that they have to worry about, but the Kaminoans as well, given the fact that the Prime Minister, who's trying his best to try and keep the Kaminoans cloning as the main, source of the Empire's military, and not to mention his own planet's income, and secure their place within this new order for the Empire, this new galactic empire. Is trying his best to try and make sure the clones remain as the main thing and not enlisted soldiers, and seems to have the Kaminoan Doctor, this sort of unknown project in which they need the enchanted clones from 99 to secure, since Jango Fett's donor DNA is degenerating and all that stuff, showing that it seems that the Kaminoans have a way of trying to at least secure their future, but it not exactly means that they are good guys, particularly the Prime Minister, who's only interested in his people's investment, and he views the Bad Batch clones as property. So he'll probably try and find to do some way of trying to capture the clones, at least one of them, because I need that and all that stuff. But yeah, so yeah, that's interesting. So yeah, which is a bit. So who knows? I'm not sure if this will lead to what the old expanded universe did with Legends, with the where in the original Battlefront 2, to explain why not every stormtrooper is a clone in the original trilogy. The Kaminoans created their own personal clone army to start a revolt against the Empire, but with the help of Boba Fett. The 501st, stormed Kamino, took the Jango's DNA, and as a result, the Empire beginning to use more separate cloning of different individuals and doing cloning themselves, and as well as enlisting troops and all that stuff to explain why that happened. I'm not sure if it's going to be the same here, but it's eventually going to lead to some sort of conflict between Kamino and the Empire, which eventually leads Camnon's no longer having their clones be like the main force of the Empire and all that stuff. So yeah. But anyway, time to get to the Bad Batch a bit. Let's see. I would probably make one last comment that, let's see, it's a bit interesting of how, let's see, Crosshair seemed to have thought of about his squad for a bit, just maybe briefly with the mission count thing, though whether or not he'll willingly betray the Empire due to his clone programming in his brain remains to be seen, but at the moment, he's going to remain loyal to the Empire. Anyway, so the Bad Batch, I kind of find it a bit of a, I must admit, I find it a bit of a stretch, the fact that the reason Omega, let's see, came along was because I'm part of the Squad 2 reasoning. Let's see, which it's a bit dangerous to take a kid out on a moon with like this sort of like creature kind of thing. I do like the design of the Ordo Dragon. Granted, it's a bit dark, so I can't fully see it fully, but who knows? Maybe I can see it on the Wikipedia page. On the Ordo Moon Dragon. Let me just get it up. Let's see what the Star Wars Wiki has. Official. Nope, but it's like this sort of like a. I think it might be maybe based on the Camino dragon, so it seems to be a bit of a blue creature with like sort of like beak-like mouth kind of thing. But its body would glow green as it eats energy and stuff. I kind of like that little thing. But anyway, but yeah. So yeah, I do find it a bit of a stretch for Itzy Omega's reasoning to come along, but it just helps us explore more of Hunter and Omega's relationship, particularly on how she thinks they can save Crosshair and all that stuff. Which gets the thing that I find interesting. One thing, I'm not sure if Wrecker's ship is starting to activate due to the headache. That's what some Star Okay, I just learned that I have just been removed from the broadcast due to some internet connection thing. I am sorry, I have no idea how far. I ended up giving my thoughts and all that stuff, so I'm just going to just quickly go through. I ended up liking what they did within the enlisting of the, let's see, showing the enlisting of the Empire with like Crosshair storyline, with how this Vice Admiral thinking that troopers joining the Empire willingly and all that stuff, particularly like with what uh, the blonde-haired dude saying, "With the Empire, I get paid, I get fed, and have the roof over my head. There's more Republic than it ever did for me." So he has this sort of like, he willingly joins the Empire out of loyalty because of what it's doing for him personally compared to what the Republic did. So that explains some sort of loyalty that you probably get with some of the Stormtrooper Corps. Not saying that the Empire is good, because it may benefit the few, but the many, it's an oppressive regime, and it will kill you if you disobey it and all that stuff. Which we see as it guns down innocent civilians, which the blonde clone soldier is against, but gets killed by Crosshair anyway, as an example of like good soldiers following orders and all that stuff. So it shows a sort of like flaw with like this sort of like enlisting, because while it might drain some loyalty, but if the enlisted soldiers could question those orders and eventually defect, which I think ends up being the case with many of the Rebel Alliance. And let's see, for example, with the Battlefront 2 game by EA with the Inferno Squad. So yeah, I do like this thing, and I like how the Cameronans are like planning their own sort of like future to secure the in their empire by needing to get the Bad Batch. Enchanted clones to replace. For this project, I assume to replace Jango Fett's degrading DNA. Their own self-interest. Whether or not this leads to like a sort of similar thing to what the original expanded universe Legends did with the original Battlefront 2 with a Cameron and clone revolt, who knows, remains to be seen. But yeah, moving on. And I do like how Crosshair has some moments of thinking of his squad at the end with like, the mission count thing, all that stuff. And anyway, let's see, where am I? Oh yeah, and I do like how the Bad Batch squad are complimenting how some of them miss, Crosshair, with with Wrecker, and Hunter, blaming himself for leaving him behind when they should have tried to save him. I do find a bit of a stretch that Mega's reasoning of going outside is because like she's a part of the squad too, but heck, it gives some more moments between her and Hunter, and her own moments to shine. Though hopefully they won't take her out to a battlefield. But yeah, I do like although Moondragon's design of a of sort of like blue, looks like some sort of blue Camino dragon kind of thing. It has some sort of beak thing instead, but then again, it might be what it's loosely based off of. But yeah, I do like it's glowing green when it eats energy and all that stuff. I kind of like that little detail of it. I like how Omega's questioning like what her enchanted abilities could be, but it's still able to learn some of the tracking skills that Hunter has, or not by its natural skills, but more just like skills that you can learn kind of thing, and which uses the flashlight to distract the dragon for her to escape with the component, and without even having to use the blaster from Hunter. Anyway, for Wrecker, I do like the idea that they're teasing the fact that he might be affected by the clone chip, though it might have just been an excuse to build the room for him, though. But it's nice, sort of like subtle foreshadowing, possibly. That might happen with where the squad needs to remove their chips sooner rather than later. But we get a nice touching moment with Wrecker and Omega as he's created his own room for her. And even giving us the surprise Lolo teddy bear like thing from like the first episode. So there we go with that. with Hunter saying how she's part of the squad, as we've had some nice father-daughter moments with her. With Rekka, we had like a either big brother or uncle moment, if you will. So there's that. The only thing I can commenting on is the fact that I kind of like the banter between Tech and Echo, where he's like, "You could have pointed this information out sooner when it comes to Dragon." That stuff, and that seems to be a sort of recurring thing between the two. It's like Echo points this deep bit of information that could have been brought up sooner, or they needed to know sooner, but Echo's like, let's see. You see, this could have come handy useful as sort of like being sort of straight man of the squad for this episode. And also with Rekka, it's like when he says, "I miss Crosshair," and it's like, he tried to shoot you, mate. He tried to shoot you. So there's that. I'm hoping those two get more done in a thing. Overall, I give this episode an 8 out of 10. I particularly enjoyed the Crosshair storyline more. I do kind of question like how Echo's reasoning of going out on the mission thing, but yeah. Anyway, thanks for those who've joined me for this long, and despite some technical difficulties and all that stuff, hopefully this live stream has recorded most of my thoughts and stuff, and hopefully it wasn't cut out too long. But I'm Blue Star Saber signing off. See you for the next episode, and may the Force be with you.